Hey guys, it's Horace here. So there's been a lot of like weird shit going on recently. There's been a lot of stuff in the news lately about a particular individual, I suppose. Um, there's been a an interesting kind of media response to all of this, and a lot of people doing their own thing, giving their own kind of perspective on things, as is often the case. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but you know, it does make people wonder what the nature of all of this really is, and like what are the goals here, from both above and from below. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming you are like somewhat aware of common popular conspiracy theories, or I suppose just truth at this point. Like a lot of conspiracy theories now have been vindicated and are turning out to just be facts the whole time, or at the very least partially true. Obviously, for a very long time, there has been conspiracy theories and speculation involving elites, powerful people, rich people, engaging in, let's say, uh, not nice behavior, particularly towards kids. Now, with the whole Epstein files thing, I've gone through some of it, not all of it, obviously, because it's long as shit. And there's a lot of stuff in there that's a little bit dense because it's emails about all kinds of different subjects, and there's also a lot of stuff in there that's like censored, redacted, where we can't really get a lot of info from it, because we don't know who he's talking to or who is talking to him in some cases, right? So there's some issues with that. Hopefully one day they'll release a fully uncensored version, but who are we kidding? That's never going to happen, at least not through official sources. It is possible that some insider could try to do some Edward Snowden, WikiLeaks kind of stuff, but for the time being, this is what we have. We're stuck with it. Now, I want to make something clear. This is not news to everyone. From what I'm seeing, there are people that are interested in this for the first time ever, who have their own, like I said, their own goals and their own interests. Unfortunately, we live in an era that's like kind of like the post-truth era. As a society, we cannot agree on what is real and what is not real. Everybody has their own perspective, and typically, well, that's not really true. There's really two perspectives. Basically, it's informed by what your political ideology is and what your interests are, what you seek to gain from the truth or from the lack of it. This is why it's hard to have honest debate. This is why it's hard to find good media outlets, because ultimately everyone has an agenda. Even I have an agenda, right? So you disregard everything I say, but it's true though, right? Ultimately, the powers that be, they are their own thing. It's not as simple as individuals or political parties. This is what these people don't understand. I'm talking about particularly there are people on the left who have reacted to this news, and all of a sudden, people that a few years ago had no interest in the Epstein files, people that were calling it, crackpot Alex Jones conspiracy theories, or saying it was anti-Semitic to care about it or whatever. And there's also people on the right who have made a full 180, right? And those people are completely retarded too. Don't get me wrong. I think both sides here are fucking stupid as shit and distracting from the bigger picture, right? The much bigger picture that these people, a lot of them anyway, are afraid to face, which is that, this particular thing, this is not an isolated incident. There's no way it is. We simply cannot believe that it is. And it's not limited to some, particular party. Like, this is also something you're seeing with some of these people on the left, these commentators and people that, make content on Instagram for retards, just straight up slop. They seem to think that, they can just vote their way out of this. They seem to think that, okay, well, in the midterms or the 2028 election, all we have to do is vote for the blue team, and there's all the pedophiles will be gone, and they're all going to go to prison or something. And it's like, that's not how this shit works. That's never how this shit worked. And, until things change, until the population becomes more radical, that's not how things will work, probably ever. You have to understand something with this stuff, right? This is bigger than anything. Just like how money, because ultimately money is the ultimate god in this society. The people first and foremost, that's what these people care about, these politicians. They're not concerned with minutia. They're not concerned with, you know, ethics or morals, or like they don't really give a shit. They're looking out for, okay, how can I profit off of something? How can I get richer? That's what they think. That's what they fucking care about. And that includes Trump. That includes Biden. That includes Kamala Harris. That includes Emmanuel Macron. That includes Giorgia Meloni. That includes Xi Jinping. That includes the king of Saudi Arabia. Whoever the fuck. Whatever politician it is. Okay? I know technically, okay, he's a monarch. Same shit. You know what I mean. He's a leader of a country. That's the goal, all in all. And from basically all perspectives, all sides, as long as things are decent, as long as, you know, there's a bit of money coming in, and, you know, things are stabilized, at least to an extent, they're not worried. Like, the powers that be are not scared. And they should be afraid, but the people, as I said before, are not radicalized enough. Okay? No one is actually doing anything about this. The last time someone tried to do something about this, there was that guy who was he was from North Carolina, and he drove like 3 hours to DC to shoot up a Comet pizza place, you know, Pizzagate. That's the last time that happened, and it's been like 10 years. You know, that's a long time ago. That was a different time, just politically in general. You know, but regardless, this stuff is bigger than any of us. And okay, and we're going to get into conspiracy theories. We're going to get into speculation, because obviously I can't prove any of this. I'm not saying I can. If you need proof, you can seek it out if you'd like. You can look for things. You can try to find information. You might find something. I don't know if it would change your mind, because a lot of people at this point, you know, if it doesn't implicate someone that they don't like, or it doesn't, you know, then they don't give a shit. But regardless, you know, it depends on the person. I'm sure some people might be more open-minded than others at this point, at this junction, because the mainstream media is kind of letting them do it. That's the other thing. These people, a lot of average people, they're lemmings, you know. And I'm not saying I'm some intellectual genius, but I can at least, I am at least curious about stuff. You know, I'm a moron, you know, idiot too. I'm a complete idiot. Okay, I barely passed fucking applied math in grade 10. Okay, I'm a fucking moron. But I also am curious. I like to look into things. And that's kind of where this is going. So, you know, powerful people, call them whatever you want. You know, the elites, the Leviathan, the cathedral, the rich, the bankers, I'm not going to go further because I don't want to get banned off of YouTube, obviously. Don't want a community guideline strike on this video, so I can't really say anything else about who they are or what kind of hats they might wear, you know. But these people, who are our owners, who own us, who own everything, our society, everything you see that's an observable reality, material reality, these people probably worship very old gods. And they probably engage in stuff that's, you know, we could call it esoteric. We could call it the occult. Okay? I mean, there's weird occult connections with Epstein. There's weird occult connections with, you know, the Rothschilds and the Clintons and all kinds of these, you know, Skull and Bones. We can talk about the Skull and Bones fraternity, that like every, you know, or like maybe like a half of presidents have been involved in U.S. presidents and politicians. That supposedly we have, you know, Egyptian rituals and all kinds of shit. We can talk about the Freemasons and how Freemasonry was, you know, a big vector for all this stuff. We can talk about Bohemian Grove, the Owl, you know, maybe you know about this, maybe you don't. Some of you probably do. But essentially, our elites worship Moloch. You know, they worship Mammon. And they worship these ancient deities to some extent. And, you know, they do engage. I believe that they engage in human sacrifice. Can I prove this? No, I can't. Do I think there's evidence for it? There's some evidence. Yeah, I think so. I think if you look out for it, you can find it. And I think they've been doing it for a very long time, because you have to understand how many people disappear every year. Not just children, but everyone go missing every year across the world, different countries. And they're never found. Right? We live in the information age. Everybody has a fucking GPS tracker in their fucking pocket. How does that work? We have security cameras everywhere. We have constant, surveillance. All, now we're going to be getting even more surveillance with Palantir and everything. And I suspect things won't change. I suspect we're still going to have a lot of these, these missing persons. Why? Right? Why? Well, my view of it is that it is purposeful. I believe that the elites that run the world are engaged in, let's just say, rituals, like I said, and part of that includes human sacrifice, child sacrifice, orgies. If you've ever seen Eyes Wide Shut, that's a whole other conversation. That movie has a lot in it. Like, I've only ever seen it once. I've only ever seen Eyes Wide Shut once, and I don't know if I can watch it again, because that movie is such an intense, like, this is kind of getting abstract if you believe in energies or not, but there's like intense energy in that movie that is like, it almost makes me kind of sick. Like when I watched it, it almost made me a little bit sick. Certain movies are like that they're just like, they're charged, and I don't really know why. I could talk about that another day. Kind of like how certain places, certain locations feel spiritually charged. They feel weird. They feel like something's off. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. We could talk about the occult, the supernatural, because I'm not saying I believe in everything, but I wonder about things, anyways. But yeah, my name is Horace, or Horatius, whatever, and I am not suicidal. I have no thoughts about hurting myself or ending my own life. So, if I disappear after this video comes out, just so you know, I am not suicidal. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I'd love to hear what you guys are thoughts on this kind of subject, or if you're interested in like content like this, talking about, I guess, conspiracy theories and kind of the paranormal to an extent, kind of occult type subjects. Obviously, this is some kind of intense stuff. It's not for everyone, but yeah, if you liked it, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and if you have any ideas or things you'd like to see videos on in the future, let me know. Okay, bye guys.